Welcome to the Messenger of Truth channel. God bless you and protect your life. Subscribe, follow our work and share the truth with others. Attos 25. Now when Festus had come into the province, after 3 days he went up from Caesarea to Jerusalem. And the high priest and the principal men of the Jews informed him against Paul and begged him, begging him as a favor against him, that he would cause him to come to Jerusalem, laying a plot to kill him on the way. But Festus answered that Paul was kept in custody at Caesarea, and that he was about to depart shortly thither. Let them therefore, he said, that are of power among you come down with me, and if there is anything wrong in this man, let them accuse him. And staying among them no longer than 10 days, he went down to Caesarea, and on the next day sat on the judgment seat and commanded Paul to be brought. And when he came, the Jews who had come down from Jerusalem stood round about him, bringing against Paul many and grievous charges which they could not prove. But he said in his defense, I have in no wise sinned against the law of the Jews, nor against the temple, nor against Caesar. But Festus, wishing to please the Jews, answered Paul and said, Do you want to go up to Jerusalem and be judged there before me about these things? But Paul said, I am standing before Caesar's judgment seat, where I ought to be judged. If I have done anything wrong or committed anything deserving of death, I do not refuse to die, but if there is nothing of the things of which these accuse me, no one can deliver me to them. I appeal to Caesar. Then Festus, when he had spoken to the council, answered, Do you appeal to Caesar? You shall go to Caesar. After some days, King Agrippa and Bernice came to Caesarea to greet Festus. And as they stayed there many days, Festus told the king about Paul's affairs, saying, A certain man was left a prisoner by Felix here, about whom the chief priests and the elders of the Jews, when I was at Jerusalem, came to me for sentence against him. To them I replied that it is not the custom of the Romans to put a man to death unless the accused has his accusers present and can defend himself against the accusation. So when they came here together, the next day, without any delay, sitting on the judgment seat, I commanded the man to be brought. When the accusers were present, they said nothing about him that I suspected. But they had some questions against him about his superstition and about a certain Jesus, who was dead, whom Paul affirmed to be alive. And being perplexed about the questioning of this matter, I asked if he would go to Jerusalem and there be judged concerning these things. But when Paul appealed to be reserved to the knowledge of Augustus, I commanded him to be kept till I should send him to Caesar. Then Agrippa said to Festus, I would that I could hear this man also. And he said, Tomorrow you shall hear him. On the next day, when Agrippa and Bernice had come with much ado, they entered the auditorium with the chief captains and principal men of the city, and Paul was brought in at Festus' command. Festus said, King Agrippa and all the men who are present with us, here you see a man about whom all the multitude of the Jews have spoken to me, both in Jerusalem and here, crying out that he ought not to live any longer. But, finding that he had done nothing worthy of death, and appealing to Augustus himself, I have determined to send him to you. But I have nothing certain to write to my lord about him, and therefore I have brought him before you, especially before you, King Agrippa, that, after he has been examined, I may have something to write. For it seems to me against reason to send a prisoner and not to notify the charges against him.